Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic: Bob Dylan sold us out. Well, it's hard to admit, sometimes, that your superhero is really just a regular guy, a commoner. Person just like us, and not an invincible god who walks the earth. A few weeks ago, I came to that realization when I read the news that my super genius superhero Bob Dylan had done the wrong thing and sold us out. He sold out his fans. I know the reason that you talked behind my back. I used to be among the crowd you're in with. Do you take me for such a fool to think I'd make contact with the one who tries to hide what he don't know to begin with? Bob Dylan, positively 4th Street. Yes, old Bob Dylan played us for fools. That's what he did. Made a big deal behind our backs. And yes, he sold us out. Big, beautiful Bob Dylan sold us out by selling his songs catalog to a big licensing company for $300 million. Okay, sure. Who doesn't want money? Who doesn't always need more money? But Bob Dylan has a lot of money. And he had a lot of money before he sold our souls for his bottom dollar. And that extra $300 million was just a fondant topper on what had already been one delicious cake of a career. When Bob Dylan sold all of his songs, and that means he no longer owns the rights to his own songs, he no longer collects royalties to what he wrote, he's still credited on paper in the liner notes as the writer of the songs. His name is on the songs, but those beautiful songs no longer belong to him in spirit or substance. What a disappointment. All his life, and all throughout his songs, Bob Dylan was the rebel. Bob Dylan was the anti-hero before there was an Antifa. It was Bob Dylan who led us out of the tumult of the 1960s and took us by the hand, from acoustic to electric, to show us the world and to treat us to a life we didn't know. Bob Dylan taught us we needed to appreciate what we may not have been experiencing. But now all that's gone. Bob Dylan tarnished his own reputation, wasted all of the goodwill he built up over the years. And we, the mega fans, are stuck, alone now, abandoned, wondering where we went wrong, and how we were so misled as to Bob Dylan's aesthetic drive and artistic intent. Yes, by selling his songs, giving up his musical works to a big company, Bob Dylan stole from us. Oh yeah, Bob Dylan stole our happiness and our independence by purpose and design. And he remanded all the wishes and dreams we invested in his songs. We were with him. We were there for him for half a century. And now he's abandoned us and everything he stood for the almighty dollar. And oh, sure, his songs are still around. They'll probably be sold to sell commercials now. And yes, we can still play his old stuff, but those old songs now sound different, with this extra information that the guy speaking to us turned out to only be a work-for-hire writer and singer and performer. Bob Dylan's personal investment in us is gone in the songs. The dollar was more important than the moral obligation to remain free and independent. So let's be clear about this. Bob Dylan is a fake and a phony. And I love the guy. Loved the guy. I used to listen to a Bob Dylan song at least once a day for my own mental health therapy. I wrote about Bob Dylan extensively, even defending him on many occasions in several bowlsblogs.com articles. And yet, Bob Dylan forsake us in the end, with the terminus near. He gave up on us, not for the American way, but for the corporate way. Once the voice of a new generation, Bob Dylan is now the voice of a spam business call, trying to sell you something only on reputation and sealing wax. Bob Dylan salted his own spirit in the spite of the hollow. The highway is for gamblers. Better use your sense. Take what you have gathered from coincidence. The empty-handed painter from your streets is drawing crazy patterns on your sheets. The sky, too, is fallen in over you, woo-woo. And it's all over now, baby blue. Bob Dylan, it's all over now, baby blue. When I was but a wee lad, and yet unknowing in the wild ways of women, there was a saying back then that, after a romantic breakup, every song you heard on the radio took on a new meaning as you relived the relationship. And that was true back then. Eerily true. And you know what? It's still true today. Just listen to a Bob Dylan song now, and you are reminded how you used to feel listening to the same song, and how it's now all changed with the purchase of his soul. And you mourn the loss of the intimate friend, the person you never met, but always admired from afar, that friend who gave you wisdom by the foot, and the sublime rhyme by the brine. Oh, I know I'll get over all of this one day, maybe. Sure, the Beatles don't own their own music anymore, but that was through bad business management and collapsing corporate deals. For a time, Michael Jackson owned the Beatles, well, the Beatles music, along with Sony. And that Beatles songs sales was a tragedy, evidence of the rotting corpse of a disingenuous friendship between Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. So how do we come to terms, my human being friend, with Bob Dylan's betrayal of our better angels and higher temptations? We know nothing's perfect. We know there are no longer any gods who are good guys and wonderful gals. We've been spoiled by purity, and now we must admit Bob Dylan is just like us, just like the rest of us, has been all along. Bob Dylan, nothing special. He's just a songwriter looking to make a buck. Who can blame him for cashing out of Tin Pan Alley? Well, I blame him, and he can be blamed. Because in the musical world Bob Dylan created for us, money was not the everything. Money was the enemy. But I guess it takes some growing up in a dysfunctional and nihilistic world to confess that money has changed everything, and money changes every person. And we need look no further for evidence of that morality play performing right in front of us right now, in the tarnished reputation and the mucked-up career of none other than Robert Allen Zimmerman, also known as the Bob Dylan. And yes, maybe we must finally confess that all along the joke was always on us. But Bob Dylan was supposed to be different. He was supposed to stand for something. The Beatles were always about money and melody and mainstream and elevator music that lasted forever. But not Bob. Bob Dylan's songs were harpy and pedantic and genius, and his voice was nothing great, and that was the charm of him. Perfect lyrics, horrible singing voice. But you'd love to hear him sing his own songs anyway, because you got the feeling and the movement of the moment. Everything he intended for us to know was in his own raspy, out-of-tune, out-of-breath voice. Bob Dylan used to be an icon, not by choice, but by birth. Now he's a footnote by choice. Divinity lost, substance diluted. And so, my human meme friend, I leave you with this final quote from Bob Dylan's iconic song, Maggie's Farm, as he gives us the lesson of a dime against a day's work for $1. And oh, the irony of it all now today. Irony that must still be lost on Bob Dylan as he creeps his way, tippy-toeing today all the way to the bank. I ain't gonna work for Maggie's brother no more. No, I ain't gonna work for Maggie's brother no more. Well, he hands you a nickel, he hands you a dime, he asks you with a grin if you're having a good time. Then he fines you every time you slam the door. I ain't gonna work for Maggie's brother no more. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.